Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. We're at the Paris Peace Forum and our guest today is Frank McCourt. Thank you very much for being here.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So you're the founder of the Liberty Project and you're the owner of arguably the most popular football club in France, Olympique de Marseille.
There's no argument about that.
Okay, we'll get back to that. But I want to begin with Project Liberty. You're putting some $100 million into this project to essentially try to make us free from the tech giants. What is this about?
Yeah, Project Liberty fundamentally is putting forward an idea that the current tech model, the current architecture, is broken. So much of our time and energy right now is spent trying to fix it and trying to constrain it and repair the damage done. Project Liberty is about a new model, transforming the way the internet works, giving agency to individuals, so individuals own and control their data.
Because right now, what you're saying or what you're implying is that Facebook, Google, and so on control the data and set the agenda and make people totally dependent on them, right?
Yes, exactly. So we all create reams of data, morning, noon, and night, and instead of having control over that data, owning it, controlling it, giving permission to others to use it for specific purposes or rescinding the permission. Now the data is extracted by a few big platforms and they decide how to use the data without our knowledge of how they're using the data, without our being compensated for the data, and so on and so forth. And even more recently now, we've seen how this data is weaponized and is how it's undermining democracies.
Undermining democracy, it's a threat to democracy. Would you say Facebook or what it's becoming is a threat to democracy?
Yeah, I would say that social media right now and the way it's being used and the current tech architecture is one of the primary, if not the primary causes we're seeing our democracies undermined. You can't, democracy is based on the simple concept of trust. And trust is based on having some sense of what is fact, what is fiction, what is true, what is false. And right now, the way the social media platforms are operating, particularly the largest of them, it's eroding the trust. There's no way to determine what is accurate information and what is misinformation. And it's a shame that the misinformation and the disinformation is actually encouraged on these platforms. Why? Because it attracts people, they stay longer, and more ads are sold and so forth. They're optimizing for the wrong thing. We should be optimizing for the health of our society, not optimizing for chaos and the undermining of democracy.
Right, but they're all saying, especially Facebook, that's been facing a lot of criticism, that they're going to change their ways, that they're going to moderate what's being said on those platforms. You don't trust them?
Well, I don't. I hope they do that.
You don't trust Mark Zuckerberg?
It's not about that. It's really
what he represents.
I don't believe that the current tech architecture is correct. I think it is fundamentally flawed, and the efforts we're making to try to constrain big tech, the efforts we're making to try to repair the damage, it's misdirected. We should be creating a new tech architecture that works for people, not for these platforms. There is an emergence of a new generation of technology. We're at that moment right now where we can transform the way the internet works. There's nothing that says the internet has to work the way it currently works. We can establish a new protocol, a new way, so that the internet actually works in a different fashion and for individuals, for society, not for a few platforms.
I mean, that's the theory, but how do you make this happen? I guess many people must be saying we have to change the internet, we have to have a revolution. It's all talk.
Well, this is what Project Liberty is about. Project Liberty has three components. It has a tech component because we believe that we need a tech solution to a tech problem. We need to innovate our way forward, not just regulate our way forward. It has a governance component, which is perhaps the most important component. We need to have a conversation at a societal level about what do we want this technology to do and for whom. And then there's a movement component. Tech, governance, movement. That's Project Liberty. We need people to get involved and get informed and excited about the possibility of a different future. We don't need to be held captive or hostage to these big platforms. The internet operates the way it operates now because there are simple protocols that dictate how it operates. There's no reason why we can't create another protocol so the internet operates differently. And again, not for the benefit of a few platforms, but for the benefit of society and for human beings.
Right. I want to get to football business first, because I mean you're the owner of Olympique de Marseille. You need a lot of money to invest in a club, especially in a city where people are very passionate. But we've seen in recent years new kind of investors. We've seen Qatar invest heavily in Paris Saint-Germain. We've seen the United Arab Emirates in Manchester City. We're now seeing Saudi Arabia buying Newcastle. Is this a sea change?
Well, I think it's been going on in sports for a long time, not just football. But there is no more important sport in the world than European football and what we'd call soccer in America. And this sport is part of the culture. It's part of people's everyday lives. Fans drive this sport. They make this sport happen. I'm not against money coming into the sport. I've invested mightily in L'OM, but we need to remember that it's about the fans and the athletes first and foremost, not about checkbooks. That's why I came out against the Super League, and because I felt it was a bit like big tech, quite frankly. It was a bit of a few trying to control the whole ecosystem and forgetting that the ecosystem are the fans and the athletes. Without them, there is no football.
Right, but isn't this in fact becoming unfair competition? Yes, you need money, but between, let's say, you and Qatar buying Lionel Messi, having Kylian Mbappe, Neymar on the same team, I mean, it's not fair anymore. I mean,
well, it's more difficult for sure because I'm very, very fortunate, and my family's very fortunate. We've worked hard for many generations to accumulate some wealth, but we're nothing compared to a government, right? A country.
Right.
So yeah, it's a challenge. But
isn't this a problem? It's more. I mean, shouldn't there be some regulation? Because if not, the European football is going to become about really being super rich, and the others are just going to play second fiddle.
I think there needs to be a framework for everyone to operate within. I'm not sitting here advocating a specific framework, but at the end of the day, I'll put the fans of L'OM and the energy that this club has against anybody's checkbook any day of the week. Now, it makes it more difficult, yes, when somebody can pull out a checkbook and sign anyone. But this is life. This is not just sports. Davids are fighting against Goliaths every day of the week. And I think it's important, however, that there be some level of fair play, some level of equal playing field, because it takes the fun out of the sport.
Right.
If only one or two teams can win, and then everyone else doesn't have a chance.
Right, because in the U.S., even in professional sports, I mean, you own the Los Angeles Dodgers baseball club, and in other professional sports, there are sometimes salary caps or things like that to at least make sure everyone has a chance, and that's not the case. I mean, European football is essentially a jungle.
Yeah, well, it's been interesting to me as an American in European sports that America is viewed as a very capitalistic place, but yet its sports leagues really try to level the playing field. And in Europe, which is viewed as a more socialist form of capitalism, the football is the Wild West. You're right about that. But I think there's a happy medium. I think we'll find that there will be reforms. Reforms are necessary here in France and throughout Europe, and there are people working on those. And I think that at the end of the day, the point you're making is that we need a level playing field of some sort for the sport to be interesting, and so that all the teams and all the fans supporting teams feel their club has a chance, right? A chance to win.
Right. Are you going to remain the owner of Olympique de Marseille? There were reports last year that you were about to sell the team. There are again rumors that there might be a Saudi interest in buying l'Olympique de Marseille. What is your response to that?
Yeah, well, as I've said repeatedly, I'm going nowhere. I love l'OM. I love Marseille, and the team is playing very, very well now. I think we're just starting to really hit our stride and really build a club that can compete year in and year out, and that's my goal. I do think it's interesting, though, when we were talking about tech earlier, that these pure rumors that spread on social media, right? This pure disinformation that spread on social media about the club being for sale. I've said maybe 10, 12 times, club is not for sale. And the club is not for sale. And here I am, owning the club. But yet the media, the rumors are allowed to migrate through social media and with no check, no balance, just be amplified by people who don't know the truth. And so this is back to our earlier part of the conversation. We need to restore trust in our communities, in our society. And social media right now is destroying the trust. It's destroying our democracies. We need an entirely new model here if we have a hope to actually restore trust and restore some semblance of what's good for society. Happily, there's a next generation of tech, and if we move quickly and this time create some governance, create the rules for whom we want this tech to work, then I think we can actually be quite surprised at how we'll be able to solve problems at scale and actually create real benefits for people and compensate them for their data, by the way.
Right. Just as the last questions, obviously the OM fans watching this interview will beg me to ask you that question. The team is doing fairly well. Do you expect them to be at the very top of the league, if not first, because it seems Paris Saint-Germain is way ahead, maybe second place?
Our goal is to be on the podium at the end of the year and to qualify for the Champions League. I've been very, very clear about that. I'll be disappointed if we don't. And I think the team has every chance of doing that. Of course, every match is a tough match in League One, and we need to play well, but we have the talent and the ambition. And between Pablo and Jorge, I believe we'll get it done. And I'm very pleased with the team and how hard they're working. It's a team that represents Marseille. You know, Marseille is a city of fighters. It's a city of people who understand challenges and overcome them. And I like now that the team really represents the city in a way that I think people can feel it. And so I'm very, very hopeful, and I believe we'll be on the podium at the end of the season.
Frank McCourt, I want to thank you very much for being with us here on the France 24 interview. Thank you for watching it. Stay tuned for more news.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.
Ah ouais, faut que j'arrête. Super.
It's been nearly half a century since this cult cartoon was first broadcast on French television. Not a single wrinkle for Grendizer, a steel giant piloted by Duke Fleed to save the Earth from the clutches of the evil King Vega. The cartoon hero's popularity took some parents by surprise. The warrior robot, adored by the French, was created by Go Nagai. It brings back fond childhood memories for these fans.
Robots as tall as buildings, carrying little children inside. And we were imagining those kids to be us.
It's the arrival of a new Asian culture, manga culture in France, whose popularity exploded.
Now the new and perhaps final episode of the Grendizer saga is out in France, created by 5 French big names in graphic novels. First challenge, getting the colors of the armor just right.
Grendizer is not just red, it's yellow, red, blue, white. We're sure of the colors. It's almost Mondrian. It's extremely distinct, extremely clear. It's brilliant because you can recognize it immediately, and at the same time, it's a complex process if you want to use more realistic colors.
And to match with the times, among the bright pages of the new comic, there's more space for female characters.
The Hikiru character becomes a spaceship pilot and she sets out to save Grendizer. Then there's Maria Fleed. She's stronger than Koji and maybe even stronger than Duke Fleed. She saves everyone.
The story's message has also been updated, showing the people of Vega in a more positive light.
All the authors who worked on this series knew that at the time they had a somewhat embarrassing fascination with the violence. As kids, they liked the idea of solving problems with their fists. As adults, they know there are other ways. Also, regarding the migrants, sending them back where they came from isn't the only solution. It's better to find out their stories and find a way to help them.
If these 136 pages have left you wanting more, the House of Japanese Culture in Paris is hosting a Grendizer exhibition. In the words of fans, long live Grendizer, the Space Prince.